And thank you for joining us on this Monday. Today, Orange County Mayor Demings will have our current COVID-19 case numbers, a brief weather update, our goals for the week, testing information, strike team details, CARES funding details, and more. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer is here with valuable news from the city of Orlando. Dr. Raul Pino from the Florida Department of Health in Orange County has information on testing numbers, time frames, and other important data. Our Orange County Public School Superintendent, Dr. Barbara Jenkins, is also here with ever so important information and updates on our schools. And after the Orange County Public School presentation by Dr. Jenkins, Mayor Demings will discuss our Eviction Diversion program along with Associate Administrative Judge from the 9th Judicial Circuit, Judge Eric Dubois. Thank you for being here, sir. And our own Clerk of the Court, Tiffany Moore Russell. Thank you both for being here. A lot to cover, but we will move through it with dispatch and begin with Mayor Demings. Mayor?
Thank you, Dr. Williamson, and thank you to all of you for being here this afternoon. I'm not going to talk much about the weather phenomena other than to say for those in the Gulf Coast states and Texas, Louisiana, we're going to certainly pray for them that they will have the best outcome possible. Going back to 2004, I do recall here within this community, we had 3 hurricanes within a 6-week period of time, Hurricanes Charlie, Jean, and Francis. And so we know what that's like to be hit multiple times within a short period of time. So we just hope and pray that God has grace on them while they're going through that terrible tragedy. Many of our viewing audience or listening audience probably has family members in that area. So that is what we will accentuate about that today. But as we move forward, I want to just kind of remind you about each week that we start the week out. We tell you what our goals are for the week, and I'm going to do that again this week. Our goal, quite frankly, is to get our eviction diversion program off the ground. You're going to hear about that in just a few moments. Secondly, we want to continue to work with businesses to make sure they are operating in the safest manner possible, and so our strike teams will continue to be moving about our community. We will continue to offer crisis assistance to families and individuals, and we will continue to offer free testing for our residents throughout Orange County. Orange County now has a total of 34,781 COVID-19 cases. That is an increase of 109 cases from yesterday. We have now lost some 361 individuals to the virus itself. In other words, 361 different families have suffered a loss of a loved one as a direct result of the virus. Our daily positivity rates continue to remain below 5%. Yeah, so that's pretty good news for our community overall. For the 3rd day in a row, we have seen that rate below 5%. Our positivity rate from yesterday, August 23rd, is 4.29%. Dr. Pino says that is one of the best days ever that we've had in terms of the positivity rates. We ask our community to please continue to wear the face coverings when out in public. We believe that it has played an instrumental role in reducing the virus here within our community. There is no desire on my part to relax the facial covering order that is in existence today. We sometimes, on a daily basis, get requests through social media and other means from members of our community about whether or not I intend to relax that. No, I don't. I intend to leave it in place for the foreseeable future because I believe that it is playing a significant role in reducing the spread of the virus within our community. Dr. Pino is going to share more details with you about the numbers. In terms of testing, Orange County Health Services will be offering free coronavirus testing this week. We'll be at Barnett Park in West Orlando beginning on Wednesday, and that will last through Friday of this week. The site will be open from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m., and we are asking people to make an appointment, if possible, by going to ocfl.net/Barnett Park. Now let me give you a quick update about the business compliance. Again, if we put executive orders in place, we want them to be followed. And our compliance teams have been out They have now visited some 1,400 different sites within Orange County. The compliance rate remains very high. We're seeing 88.5% of the business meeting or exceeding inspection standards at this point. That means that we're not at 100% yet. Our goal is to get to 100% within our community. For whatever reason, there's still some businesses who are not following the CDC guidelines, and so we want them to come into compliance. I say to the consumer out there, if you see a business that is not complying, don't patronize that business. It's that simple. I think sometimes when they're impacted more directly by the bottom line, they make adjustments. We know that our citizens, our residents of Orange County, want to see these guidelines in place. We know that because of the consumer confidence survey that we put out just a few months ago. And in terms of eviction diversion, tomorrow, August the 25th, we will kick off our program at 9 a.m. That's when applications will begin. You can apply through our portal at ocfl.net. We hope to avoid evicting somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 individuals through the program. Today, we're joined by several of our elected officials. We have Orange County Judge Eric Dubois and the clerk of courts, Ms. Tiffany Moore Russell, who have joined us here today. You're going to hear from them in just a moment. It may take us a little bit of time to get through the details of the eviction diversion program, so what I'm going to do is pause, and I'm going to ask Dr. Pino and Superintendent Jenkins and Mayor Dyer to come up and share with you some information before we get into the eviction diversion. And so we're going to come back to that. So in the order, we'll start with Mayor Dyer, then Dr. Pino, and then Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor Demings. As I say every week, it remains critically important that we continue to remain vigilant in our efforts at fighting the spread of the virus. I want to continue to thank everyone for their actions to stay the course, wearing our masks, social distancing, practicing good hygiene. Today and every day, we must continue to come together and take the necessary actions to fight this virus. We must continue to adjust to our new normal. And speaking of moving our community forward, in addition to safety measures, a critical piece of that is providing funding and resources for our residents and businesses. And part of that critical funding comes from our federal resources and state resources. So it's more important than ever that we count every single person in our community in the 2020 census. We're about a month away from the deadline, September 30th, so I want to encourage everyone who's not filled out their census to do it. It takes about 5 minutes, and we only get this opportunity once every 10 years. And then in closing, I want to emphasize our testing sites. Again, as a city, we continue to offer free testing every week in different neighborhoods. This week we'll be at the Englewood Neighborhood Center, Wednesday, August 26th from 9 to 1. You can make appointments at orlando.gov. Dr. Pino.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As the Mayor mentioned, Mayor Deming, that is, we have 34,781 positive cases in our county. And that gives us a recovery rate of 94%. This is probably the highest we've ever been. And with regard to fatalities, we have only one fatality has been reported to the state since we saw you last on August 20th. And one is too many. But it's also an indication of how the county has recovered from the virus to get to this point. If you remember a few weeks back, maybe 2-3 weeks back, we were having 20 deaths reported over the weekend. So that is huge improvement. And our condolences and sympathy to the family of the person who has died. And the fact that we mentioned that it's only one person, it doesn't take significance away from you, your family, and the last member of your family. We received yesterday 109 positive cases, and we are pushing for that day where we only have double digits. We received 2,432 negative cases, and that gives us a 4.29%, and that's the best data we ever had. ER visits, hospitalizations, and syndromic visits to the hospitals has greatly declined. And with regard to the schools, it is safe to say right now, as far as we know, there has not been transmission at the schools at this point, but we have identified in the data 207 students that are positive in the last 14 days and 12 employees that has been positive in the last 24 days. With regard to the students, we know that none of them has been in classrooms yet, and we have not need to send home for quarantine any of the classrooms in Orange County Public Schools. Of the 12 employees, 2 are bus drivers, and we are in the process of verifying the protocols and procedures that the Orange County Public School have in place did take place, like cleaning the buses between shift and everything that is needed. The bus drivers wear masks at all times, so we don't think that there was any risk for the students who were in those buses. As you can see, that is also our incident rate for Orange County per 100,000, and right now we only have, as last week, that's week 34, I believe, 70 cases per 100,000 individuals. And at some point where we were to the highest, imagine, we were at 361 per 100,000 in our county. And with a population of 1.4 million, that could give you an idea of the numbers that we were experiencing. Next graph. This is our curve for daily rates, daily cases, I'm sorry. And as you can see clearly, we went from the highest levels that we had, over 12,000 cases, in 1,200 cases in a day, to 190 today. Next curve, next graph. And these are our fatality per week. And as you can see, we experienced the last 3-4 weeks a high number of deaths that has continued to decline. And last week, week 34, we only have 1. Also, do we have another graph, or that's the last one, I believe? That's the last graph. One more. Hospitalizations, those continue to decline. And if you can see, we have 253 total people hospitalized with COVID-19 as a 22nd of August. 2 days ago at 5 p.m., we had the highest was 604. And in ICU care, we have only 61 individuals on August 22nd diagnosed with COVID-19. I will pass the microphone to my fast-tracking friend, Dr. Jenkins, and I will answer any questions that you may have later.
Thank you, Dr. Pino. We are becoming regular comrades as we go through the particulars of reopening our schools. I want to say how much we appreciate Dr. Pino for his attentiveness and to his staff for assisting us. Now, I can imagine some folks are going to be quite curious about a court ruling that has just come down. I can tell you in advance, I cannot answer questions. Our attorneys are reviewing that ruling. We are aware that the judge actually did strike down or rule portions of the emergency order from the Commissioner of Education as unconstitutional regarding the reopening of schools. The court also deleted some of the reopening plan language in the emergency order and the requirement that districts have an approved reopening plan in order to receive full FTE credit for students taking online learning. That order is a little bit more extensive than that, so our attorneys are reviewing it. We suspect there may be an appeal. Certainly our board has not had time to digest nor to discuss it, but I wanted to say that up front before I get questions. Secondly, regarding our opening, we are at day 2 for our face-to-face opening. About 69,000 students attending school in person. That's out of our 212,000 students total. And out of our 25,000 employees, about 2/3 of them are actually in the school setting as well. Visited several schools on Friday, as did our school board members and my cabinet members, and saw very good things going on. I want to commend our principals, our assistant principals, and certainly our teachers for the phenomenal work that they're doing. Let me provide a few reminders to our parents. If a child is not feeling well, regardless of whether or not you've had a test or suspect that it is COVID-19, we simply ask that you keep the child at home. Equally important is that you also isolate or keep at home siblings of that student that may not be feeling well. If someone in your home has tested positive for COVID-19, please do not send the child to school. Even if they're feeling okay, we need you to keep those students home as well if there is a positive case identified in your household. That quarantine is typically for 14 days. Once a student gets symptoms or gets tested, then that may shrink to 10 days, but we need you basically to keep your child at home. Please remind your child also that wearing the face mask, as the mayor indicated, is most critical to us conquering this pandemic in our community. So we saw wonderful agreement to that, and actually most of our students were wearing appropriate face masks and wearing them appropriately. It needs to cover both the nose and the mouth. Shields are not an acceptable substitute for face masks. They have to wear face masks. This is important too. On the school bus, you have to wear your face mask, and walking to and from school, you should be wearing your face mask and socially distancing from others that might be walking to school as well. I think we've become a little bit more relaxed about that walk to school. Please have your children wear their face masks then as well and practice social distancing. Might also be helpful to have a spare face mask. Sometimes they become quite damp during the day, and so we want our children to have spare face masks as well. We've got extras at school should they be in need of one. It's also very helpful to bring a water bottle so that you can fill that water bottle rather than drinking from fountains at the school. If we encourage our students, we believe we can continue to have a positive impact on our young people and on our community. Now, my principals and administrators asked me to be sure and indicate, just so everyone is extremely cautious, that there will be no perfect attendance awards this year. We want our young people to realize there is no extra award for having perfect attendance this year, because we want to err on the side of caution for our young people to make sure if there are any symptoms, if you don't feel well, that you're staying at home. So no perfect attendance awards. Conveying that to everyone would be helpful. Lastly, our COVID-19 Health and Safety Handbook has version 4. It has been updated again with the latest from our CDC guidelines, from our Department of Health here locally, as well as some input from our Medical Advisory Committee. It is available on the front page of our homepage. Page 4, anytime we issue a new version, page 4 will always indicate what has actually been changed in that version for your easy reference. So certainly rely on that as well. We would ask you to visit our website, ocps.net, for additional information. You can check our Facebook and Twitter feeds as well. It is our commitment to continue keeping our children and our staff members safe. Judge Dubois?
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Mayor Demings, Mayor Dyer, thank you. The courts are glad to be one of the many partners on this new and exciting journey that is launching tomorrow in the Eviction Diversion program. Along with our Orange County Bar Association partners, Executive Director Jenny Brown, current Bar President LaShonda Jackson, and Legal Aid Society Bethany Barber, they look forward to taking on the task. Just to put things into perspective and what we were anticipating, which thank God hasn't happened yet, and we're hoping that that's because of the diversion program. In August of 2019, when things were theoretically good, the county saw 1,061 evictions filed in that month. This month to date, we've only seen 471. We look forward to working with the community in the county. As judges and as the courts, our hands are tied. But if someone is post-eviction and filed and has a COVID-related issue, based on the executive order of the governor, we would basically refer them to the diversion program. Our hope is that people will take advantage of this, landlords and tenants, and avoid that black mark on someone's record that will stay with them for life at no doing of their own. So I appreciate it. Look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you, Judge DuBois. Let me just remind you about our eviction diversion program. It is a program in which we intend to expend $20 million of our CARES Act funding to assist individuals who have been impacted by COVID-19 who are being confronted with the possibility of eviction. In addition to Judge DuBois and Clerk Russell, I'd like to recognize several other individuals who are in the audience here today who have been part of this innovation that we are undertaking here within Orange County. From the Clerk of the Courts, Ms. Roberta Walton, who manages the Self-Help Center and Family Services. From Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida, Mr. Jeff Harvey, who is the Chief Executive Officer. From the Orange County Bar Association, Ms. Jenny Brown, who is the Executive Director, and Ms. Candace Maul, who is the Operations Manager. From Orange County Legal Aid, Ms. Bethany Barber, who is the Executive Director. And from the Heart of Florida United Way, Mr. Jeff Hayward, the President and CEO, and Ms. Graciela Noriega Jacoby, who is the Chief Operations Officer. Also from the Apartment Association of Greater Orlando is Mr. Chip Tatum, who is the CEO. And so we brought back up today so that if there are any tough questions, these are all the people who will be answering the tough questions today. The goal of the COVID-19 Eviction Diversion Program is to help stabilize residents who are in imminent danger of being evicted due to the coronavirus. This program not only works with tenants who are facing eviction, but also landlords who are also paying rent in some cases or mortgage payments on the buildings or the properties that they own. The application process is what we call a first come, first ready. Again, it's a first come, first ready process. By that, we mean whoever completes their application and submits it with all supportive documents in a timely manner will stand a better chance of being included on the list of eligible applicants. It's important to get the application in as quickly as possible. We ask our members of the public to remember there are limited funds available, and that is why we want residents and landlords to be ready when the portal opens tomorrow. Residents must be at least 2 months past due on rent from April 1st through August 31st of this year. Both the landlord and tenant must agree to participate and meet the eligibility requirements. Applicants must have proof of COVID-19 impact. As a reminder, this is not a rental assistance program. You may recall that several months ago, we offered rental assistance along with assistance with the payment of utility bills and medical expenses. That program is currently closed to new applications. For tenants to qualify, they need the following documentation. They need an Orange County resident proof of ID. That means a photo ID like a driver's license, a passport, a state ID, a work ID. They must provide a copy of some type of lease agreement. They must provide 2 bank statements or a card transaction or payroll pay records. And finally, they must provide proof of COVID-19 hardship documentation. The program opens tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. If you have questions, you can simply call 311. If you're anywhere within Orange County and you have a phone, you just dial 311. And our workers there are trained to be able to assist you with answering questions. You can also get information from our website at ocfl.net/eviction diversion. And so with that, we have Clerk Russell and Judge Dubois and others who I have introduced who can answer all of the tough questions that you might have. So we're going to open it up for questions at this time. And Clerk Russell, you have a prepared statement at this one.
Well, first, I want to thank Mayor Demings and the Board of County Commissioners for this huge leadership effort to implement this relief program for those vulnerable tenants and landlords in our community. This is a huge and important partnership between the Orange County Bar Association, Legal Aid, the Clerk's Office, our court system, and Orange County government as we help our citizens navigate these unprecedented times. The clerk of courts is what we always like to say, the gateway to the judicial system for anyone dealing with a potential eviction case. And as you heard the mayor stated, Roberta Walton is here. The clerk's office is prepared today. We're updating our website on our self-help center page with the information for the diversion program. We have staff there 5 days a week to help with forms, information, as well as our partnership with the Orange County Bar Association, where we have lawyers there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to answer legal questions. And so that's what our part will be, to make sure that we can assist those who are navigating the system. And you can visit my website at myorangeclerk.com if you need an additional resource to find information on this program. And Mayor, again, I thank you for allowing us to participate. It's been a great partnership, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, I have my Chief of Staff here, Ms. Roseanne Harrington, who has been instrumental in kind of working with the entire collaborative that is here within our community to make this all work tomorrow. So we are going to open it up and hope for the best as we move forward. So any questions that you have about eviction diversion?
Specifically about eviction diversion, or can we ask other questions?
You can ask other questions, but
Okay.
We have a whole team of people. If you have questions about the eviction diversion, we'll get those out of the way first, and then we can transition to the others. So,
Mine's for Dr. Jenkins, so if you'd like someone else to go first.
okay, so let's stick with the eviction diversion, and then we'll open it up for the general. You know, the microphone always kind of magically moves throughout the room. You know, we never see who's moving it, but.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Molly Durig with Spectrum News 13. So for the application process, do landlord and tenant need to be applying together in real time, like sitting next to each other, or can it be that one party submits all their documents and then it goes through to the other party?
Okay, Judge? So, Roseanne? I saw the judge move, Roseanne.
I think we were both shaking our head no.
Good afternoon.
What we've done with the apartment association is ask the apartments to tell us and provide us a list of, these are the list of tenants that are in jeopardy, and we are willing to participate in this program with these tenants. And then we've asked them to go to the tenants and say, hey, look, here's your 3-day notice, this is what you owe. Or if you don't have the money, you can participate in this program by going to this webpage and filling out the paperwork, and that's what would be sent to the Bar Association.
So we're using an online portal, and we're using the same software that we did for the Small Business Grant Program, and it's very user-friendly, and it's designed for both the landlord and the tenant can go online and fill out their section of the application, and they will be merged together. And then the bar will ensure that if a tenant inquires, that they contact the landlord, and if the landlord inquires, automatic emails are sent to the tenant and the landlord, and a case number will be assigned so that they can track it.
And I would like to share, oftentimes we receive at the Self-Help Center many pro se landlords who may not be a part of an apartment association. And so if those individuals find themselves at the courthouse, the clerk's office and the Self-Help Center is prepared to direct them to the program. So we also have a large amount of landlords who are not a part of a large association. So they will be able to get to the same access whether they come through the association or directly to the self-help center.
If I may. So in Florida, landlord-tenant law is kind of a pay-to-play state. So if you're a tenant and you don't put your money in the registry, there's nothing you can do. Under the governor's executive order, if you have a COVID-related issue that's causing you a hardship, then you don't have to pay your rent, essentially. But that's up for a judge to decide. So that's what we've asked the self-help center to do, and that's when we could look at the landlord, look at the tenant and say, look, it's COVID-related, why don't you guys go participate in this program and abate the case and refer them to the diversion, if it's post-suit. We're hoping it doesn't get to that.
Okay, other eviction diversion questions? If there are no others regarding eviction diversion? Look like we might have no others? Okay, so then we'll open up for the general questions at this point. All right, thank you all.
Mayor Lauren
Dr.
Seabrook,
Pino,
Channel
right?
9. No, not Dr. Pino today. This one's for Dr. Jenkins.
Dr. Jenkins. I know it was one of the doctors.
Hi, Dr. Jenkins.
Hello.
I know you mentioned you wouldn't be able to comment on the ruling, but in response to the ruling, the teachers union is calling for schools to go back to virtual learning. Is that something the district would consider, is considering, or where are you at with that right now?
So the board actually has their regular board meeting tomorrow. It'll be their first opportunity to have any discussion around this ruling that has just come down. Here's the thing, I think they will be hard-pressed to make an immediate decision because there may be a stay that comes down, and of course there may be an appeal that comes down. So we want to be well advised before making an immediate reaction that might then be overturned.
Dr. Jenkins, stay there, please. Thank you. This is for you, but there's also a question for Dr. Pino. I don't want to have him feel left out. The 207 cases that he talked about with students, is that concerning to you? Is it just basically part of the new normal?
So that's a great question. And when he talks about that age range from 5 to 18, that's important because we cannot actually specify that they're all OCPS students. We will track closely anything that happens or that we become aware of in our schools, but we depend on the Department of Health to really be the basis for watching those students and staying on top of them. What we've said all along, and I think Dr. Pino said as well, is that it's not a matter of whether or not you will have cases. If they're throughout the community, you're going to have them in your schools as well. It's a matter of how well we manage and track those cases and contact trace those cases.
Thank you. And Dr. Pino, if I may, about that. Were those students just identified through general testing?
In many cases were, families that had testing these students. Again, none of those 207 cases that we know of were at a school where they were infectious. So we haven't had the need to send any classrooms to quarantine from the public schools yet. Remember that we did that with a private school a couple of weeks ago, but no this far. And to your prior questions, 207 cases in the community are not of a concern, as long as we have those measures in place to diminish as much as we can transmission. And that's our objective, is to curtail transmissions in the schools. Transmission is happening in the community. Transmission is happening at your supermarket, at your grocery store, at your shopping experience. Transmission is happening. But we have reduced incidence and positivity rate to levels where it's manageable, able to control, able to track, and not be a taxing on healthcare system. So we are right now in a good position, in a very good position, enviable position for the state actually, but we have to remain vigilant and continue to use the mask, and totally 100% agree with the mayor. It is not a time to relax a mask mandate, because this pandemic, as we experienced in the past, it will go from 20 cases one day to 150 the next day, and then 500 the next day, and then it's out of control.
This question is also for Dr. Pino. I just wanted to follow up how you mentioned that some school bus drivers had tested positive. were they driving students? And are they going to, the kids on the bus, have their families been notified?
Not yet. And we have to make a decision on that. The fact that it is we haven't interviewed the drivers, so that will be the next step, to interview the drivers. That may be happening this afternoon. And as far as we know so far, we don't think that the students were at risk. Now, what we are trying to verify is, was the bus clean as it is in the protocols between trips? And that's an important distinction that we have to make. Even that's to be sure that is another layer of protection for the student that came after the first load. We believe that 17 in one bus, 30-something in the other one. And we know who those students are, and we will work with the school system if we believe that there is a need for notification, but those notifications will come from the school, not from the health department.
This is Kelsey Thord with West 2 News. Dr. Pino, I have a question for you and for Mayor Demings. For you, Dr. Pino, where are you at with the getting the rapid testing for schools? And then for Mayor Demings, if you could comment on the FEA lawsuit ruling, how do you feel about the judge's ruling?
With the rapid testing, so we have the capacity to test the students right now. We are, it's a place should have been ready for today. We were lifting the carpet. There were some issues, but nothing major, because we want to set up lanolin floor so that you can sanitize the place better than carpets. That was the concern. But it should be ready by Thursday. But again, if we have need for testing, we can use PCR testing, the nasal right now. We have 10,000 of those, and we have the teams ready to provide that testing. Now, with regard to rapid, we reviewed the contract last Friday night, sent some comments to the state that they were asking, and I believe the contract will be signed today. And I just received an email that I haven't been able to open yet with regard to the testing. Our hopes is to have it as soon as possible. And again, that's a donation by the NBA that is over $100,000 in value that they are donating to our community.
I was made aware of the judge's ruling just prior to the press event, so I haven't read it yet, but I have 100% confidence in our school board and Dr. Jenkins that they're going to make the appropriate decisions once they understand what the order says.
This next question was texted in from Adelaide Chen from the Orlando Sentinel. It's for Dr. Jenkins and Dr. Pino. Over the weekend, the Florida Department of Health started producing a daily report on COVID cases in schools. The numbers are by county. It counts COVID cases in primary, secondary, and college. The count for the past 14 days is about 35. Is there a reason why it is so low compared to the 200 you cited earlier?
So yes, there is a reason for that. The reason is that reports generated by the state take in consideration just the data that they have at the time that they are sending the reports. So those reports have a time cut limit. Normally it's about 9 o'clock of that morning, and that's the data. But as soon as we receive the data, that data gets reviewed and cleaned up. And also you add in some cases that we may have interviewed already and know of the presence of those cases. So the fact that the data is a little bit different is actually not a bad thing, it's actually a good thing, meaning we are actively looking for those cases. We are not reliable in someone else's determination, but finding in the data the cases that we need for our community.
I would add, this is our second day of actual attendance for Orange County Public Schools, and I noted earlier Dr. Pino's data is 5 to 18-year-old age category.
The last question that was texted in is from Mayor Demings. This is from Ryan Lynch with the Orlando Business Journal. Mayor Demings, if there's additional demand for the eviction diversion program, might the county direct additional Untethered CARES Act funds into the program?
The short answer is yes. We left ourselves a contingency fund that we call a replenishment fund, where some of my colleagues are here from the board, Commissioner Uribe and Commissioner Gomez-Cordero. What we would do is do an evaluation of where we are and the experience that we actually have with the expending of CARES Act dollars and make some adjustments if needed. Okay. Do we have any Spanish-speaking media here today? Okay. What we're going to do, I'm going to thank the general media for being here, but we're going to transition. I am going to ask Dr. Jenkins and Dr. Pino to stay, and we're going to present some of the information, particularly regarding the Eviction Diversion Program and some of the suggestions that were offered by Dr. Jenkins in Spanish. And we'll use Ms. Ilia Torres to come forward and share that information. I just want to make certain that all segments of our community are getting the information. Commissioners, I know both of our commissioners who are here, they are fluent in Spanish as well. And so to all of the media, if you have questions in Spanish, please utilize their experience as well. So I'm going to ask Ms. Torres to come forward, and then we'll transition. All right, let me just say thank you for joining us. We're going to share some information about our Eviction Diversion Program, and we will share some information about our school district as well, and we're joined by Dr. Jenkins.
Gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a compartir la tarde de hoy información sobre nuestro programa de desvío de acciones de desalojo, así como información adicional con relación al sistema escolar.
We want to remind you, the public, that Orange County has $20 million that has been allocated for eviction diversion.
Queremos recordarle a nuestros residentes que el condado de Orange ha separado $20 millones para su programa de desvío de acciones de desalojo.
The goal of the COVID-19 Eviction Diversion Program is to help stabilize residents who are in imminent danger of being evicted due to the coronavirus.
El objetivo de este programa de desvío de desalojos es ayudar a estabilizar a nuestros residentes que están en peligro inminente de ser desalojados debido al coronavirus.
Not only works with tenants who are facing eviction, but also landlords who are also paying rent or mortgage payments on their buildings.
Este programa no tan solo trabaja con los inquilinos que enfrentan acciones de desalojo, sino que también trabaja con propietarios, quienes también tienen que pagar por sus edificios o propiedades.
The application process is first come, first ready. First come, first ready.
El proceso de solicitud es primero en llegar y el primero que esté listo.
By that we mean whoever completes their application and submits it with all supportive documents in a timely manner will stand a better chance of being included on the list of eligible applicants.
Con eso lo que queremos decirle es que los primeros que apliquen y completen sus solicitudes con todos los documentos durante el tiempo o el periodo requerido tienen mayor chance de ser incluidos como inquilinos cualificados.
It is important to get the application in as quickly as possible.
Es importante que los solicitantes sometan su aplicación lo antes posible.
Remember that there are limited funds available and that this is why we want residents and landlords to be ready when the portal opens tomorrow.
Los fondos para este programa son limitados, por eso es que queremos que los inquilinos y los propietarios estén listos para cuando este programa abra mañana.
Individuals must be residents of Orange County.
Los individuos deben ser residentes del condado de Orange.
Residents must be at least 2 months past due on rent between the periods of April 1st through August 31st of this year.
Los residentes deben de tener al menos 2 meses de atraso en el pago de su renta entre los meses del 1 de abril al 31 de agosto de este año.
Both the landlord and tenant must agree to participate and meet the eligibility requirements.
Tanto el propietario como los inquilinos deben aceptar participar del programa y cumplir con los requisitos de elegibilidad.
Applicants must have proof of COVID-19 impact.
Los solicitantes deben mostrar prueba de impacto económico causado por COVID-19.
This is not a rental assistance program. You may recall that several months ago we offered rental assistance with other assistance with the payment of utility bills and medical expenses.
Este no es un programa de asistencia para el pago de alquiler. Ustedes recordarán que hace unos meses tuvimos un programa similar que ayudaba a nuestros residentes con el pago de renta y otras utilidades, pero este no es el caso.
The rental assistance program is currently closed to new applications.
Nuestro programa de asistencia para renta en la actualidad se encuentra cerrado para recibir nuevas solicitudes.
For tenants to qualify, they need the following documentation.
Para que los inquilinos puedan cualificar, necesitan proporcionar la siguiente documentación.
Orange County resident proof of ID,
Una prueba de identificación que lo muestre que usted es residente del condado de Orange.
that means a photo ID like a driver's license, passport, state ID, or work ID.
Algunos de los ejemplos son licencia de conducir, pasaporte, identificación estatal o una identificación de trabajo.
Copy of a lease,
Copia de su contrato de arrendamiento,
2 bank statements or a card transaction or payroll pay records.
2 estados de cuenta bancarios o la transacción de su tarjeta de pago de nómina.
And finally, proof of COVID-19 hardship documentation.
Y finalmente una prueba sobre su impacto económico causado por COVID.
Applications will open tomorrow at 9 a.m.
El proceso de solicitud comienza mañana a las 9 de la mañana.
For questions and information, you may call 311
Para preguntas e información se puede comunicar al 311
or you can go to our website at ocfl.net/eviction diversion.
o puede visitar nuestra página web ocfl.net/eviction diversion.
And at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Jenkins to come forward and share some information with you about our local school district. Dr. Jenkins.
Invitar a la doctora Jenkins que se acerque al podio para proporcionar detalles sobre el sistema escolar.
Thanks to our teachers and principals for the first 2 days of face-to-face instruction.
Gracias a todas las maestras y a los principales de las escuelas por los primeros 2 días de educación presencial.
We want to remind parents of critical information to keep our children and schools safe.
Queremos hacerle algunos recordatorios importantes a los padres para mantener a nuestros niños seguros.
If someone in your home has tested positive for COVID-19, please do not send your child to school.
Si alguien en su familia arrojó positivo a COVID-19, por favor, no envíe a su hijo a la escuela.
Even if the child is feeling okay, they will still need to quarantine for 14 days.
Aun si su hijo se siente bien, deberá mantenerlos en cuarentena por 14 días.
If your child is sick and you are waiting for results, keep the child and siblings at home.
Si su hijo está enfermo y usted está esperando por los resultados, por favor, mantenga a su hijo y a sus hermanos en la casa.
Please remind your child to wear his his or her face mask at all times,
Recuérdele a sus hijos utilizar las mascarillas y cubiertas faciales todo el tiempo,
including at the bus stop or walking, riding to and from school.
Eso incluye en el autobús escolar o de camino a la escuela, de camino o de regreso de la escuela.
It is helpful to bring a spare face mask.
Se recomienda que los estudiantes traigan una mascarilla adicional.
In case the first one gets rather damp,
En caso de que la que estén utilizando se humedezca.
we also request that students bring water bottles.
También recomendamos que los estudiantes traigan una botella de agua.
To avoid drinking from the water fountains.
Esto para evitar que tengan que tomar de la fuente de agua.
You can refer to our COVID-19 Health and Safety Handbook
Puede referirse a nuestro manual de salud y seguridad
on our website at ocps.net.
en nuestra página web ocps.net.
Finally, we received word today that the courts ruled the DOE emergency order unconstitutional.
Finalmente, en el día de hoy recibimos notificación de que la Corte estableció que la orden del Departamento de Educación es inconstitucional.
Our legal team is reviewing the order and the school board will discuss tomorrow.
Nuestro departamento legal está revisando la orden y la Junta Escolar se dispone a discutirla mañana.
There is no stay at this point to end face-to-face instruction.
No hay planes hasta el momento de parar o culminar el proceso de enseñanza presencial.
And a swift appeal by the governor's office is expected.
Y se espera que de parte de la oficina del gobernador se apele la decisión del juez.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Commissioners, do you all have anything you want to add? Okay. No? Dr. Pino, anything else? Okay. Then muchas gracias and hasta mañana.